Hey there, everyone. This is Samuel Johnson, and welcome back to the Lyoko Retrospectives. And today we're going to be discussing episode 49 of Code Lyoko, Franz Hopper. And as the name says, the group meets Franz Hopper, sort of. I'll get into it, but pretty much the episode opens with XANA apparently activating 5 towers at once. So of course the group goes in to investigate. However, when they get to the factory, they find someone working. They find someone working at the supercomputer and just disabling the towers one by one, and that person is revealed to be, well, Franz Hopper. Of course, the group immediately has questions for him, like where has he been all this time? What's happening, etc. And he just states that he's been in some kind of prison. He's been kind of in prison, but he's managed to escape. As such, on top of that, he kind of actually reveals a bit more details regarding XANA and Aelita, claiming that Aelita was designed to be the guardian of Lyoko, and XANA was originally a program meant to be like a countermeasure towards a government project. He doesn't specify what it is. It's kind of vague, and that XANA went rogue. Bottom line is with Franz Hopper here, the group thinks that with him they now have a chance of taking down XANA and possibly getting the antivirus out of Aelita. As such, things seem to be going well. Things are going well. However, during one of the meetings with him, he mentions that it was foolish to use the scanners to enter Lyoko, as apparently they weren't fully tested yet when he was working on them, and one of the possible side effects being cellular degeneration. Of course, the group is immediately horrified by this, and they immediately check Odd, Ulrich, and Yumi. And while Odd and Ulrich check out as fine, Yumi's report comes across as bad, as it looks like she has something. And for some reason, the group immediately blames Jeremy. Now, to be fair, Jeremy is the brains behind everything and did all this stuff. But at the same time, they should know Jeremy well enough to know that he wouldn't do this on purpose. And while I would understand getting a little upset, I think that would pass away because they know Jeremy and they know he's their friend. But when they learn that, and while I can understand them being anxious to find a way to help Yumi and fix everything, I think at the same time they would want to help. They would not blame Jeremy for too long, and would possibly want to work with him to try and find a way to cure this, because again, Jeremy's their friend and they've been through a lot together. But the group, particularly Ulrich, is just acting like a dick to him. Odd acts like a dick to him at first, but he does it in his odd way and he just kind of rolls off it. Ulrich, in the meantime, just keeps jabbing it into Jeremy, and he's just not helping at all. He's just acting like a complete asshole, which I'll rant about once I'm done with the summary. I'll get to that. Trust me, I've got words. On top of that, Franz states that he has a way of getting the group that he can send the group to Sector 5, and that this might be able to help them find an antivirus for Aelita so they can shut off the supercomputer. However, he doesn't want Jeremy going in because he thinks that Jeremy would just get in the way, and to show how Jeremy has been a complete failure, he lists off the various things that have happened while Jeremy's in charge, and just completely shames him until finally Jeremy decides, you know what, screw you guys, I'm leaving. Weirdly enough, Aelita's literally the only one who actually is concerned about his well-being, because she knows him. She knows he's not a bad person, but when he walks away, the group doesn't even step up. They're like, hey, Jeremy's our friend, or no. It's like, look, he didn't mean it, or look, those are mistakes. No. They just let Franz Hopper tear into him, and then when he's gone, they just say nothing, like, whatever. Like, up yours, guys. Up yours. Again, the excuse about them blaming Jeremy for what happened to Yumi can only get you so far. They should know Jeremy at this point. They should know he would never pull anything like this on purpose. And if he learned that one of his experiments put one of them in danger, they would know he would not rest until he fixed it. So they should know this. And yet they just constantly are like, well, Jeremy, you should have known this. Oh, screw you. I'll get to that. Trust me, I have words. But bottom line, after Jeremy leaves, he just kind of gets met. He just kind of storms home, while Franz sends Ulrich, Odd, and Yumi into Lyoko Aelita, even being able to send them directly into Sector 5 since, well, he's the creator of Lyoko. Even pretty much upgrades their weapons to put simply, the cheat codes are on. They're all just souped up and can one shot the enemies. They can hit them without even trying. It just looks like everything's good. And after everything's cleared away, he's ready to send Aelita in. However, Jeremy, while he's stewing, begins thinking about things that Franz Hopper And when Franz Hopper mentioned the cavalcade of screw-ups that Jeremy did when it was just him in charge, one of the things that Franz Hopper mentioned was that you let XANA destroy my diary. And Jeremy starts wondering, how would he know that? Because literally, the only people who knew about that was the group and XANA himself. At which point, Jeremy puts the pieces together. It turns as he realizes that this isn't actually Franz Hopper. It's in fact a XANA puppet. And yeah, that's exactly what it is. Once the instant Jeremy realizes this, he runs back to the factory, and he manages to get to Aelita just before she can go into Lyoko. At which point he explains what happens. It happens off screen, but I'm just gonna say it right here. He pretty much explains to her that the Franz Hopper that's there is not the real one, and that this is just one of XANA's tricks. As such, they lay a trap for him. Aelita doesn't let herself be virtualized, but instead, through Jeremy's laptop, they're able to create essentially a false avatar, something that gets sent into Lyoko something that can be digitized into Lyoko. It's not really them, but it's not really Aelita, but it looks like her, and Aelita is able to control it. As such, it gets virtualized in, and of course, since this is all a trap, then she ends up, instead of going to Sector 5 with the rest of the group, she's teleported to the desert region. She's teleported to the desert sector on a lone platform without any place to run. As such, Jeremy goes to confront the XANA Franz Hopper, and when he confronts him about the knowledge, he confirms it as his eyes immediately flash the XANA symbol. Of course, Franz immediately, or XANA, sorry, I'm just gonna call him XANA now. XANA immediately just starts gloating about how he's won now, that since he's in control of the computer, he's now disabled the group's weapons and the devirtualization program, so if they're gone, they're gone. And at the worst time too, as after the group clears out Sector 5 so that it's no longer shuffling, they end up getting chased by creepers, and XANA took away their weapons. On top of that, however, this is also where we get a nice little bit of revelation, as it turns out that Sector 5 has its own towers, as when they run through, they find an activated tower float just in this one room in Sector 5, just floating there. It's got the red glow and everything, so yeah, that's the one that XANA activated in order to create this false Franz Hopper. However, since Jeremy and Aelita were able to figure out, so of course, as XANA thinks he's winning, he sends the Schifozoa after the Aelita avatar, but since it's not really her, it does jack all. And at which point they actually managed to screw with the Schifozoa, as whatever it downloaded from the avatar, it screwed with it something fierce, and XANA gets so angry that the Franz Hopper avatar dissipates and turns to dust. At which point, Jeremy gets to the console, makes it so that the group can be devirtualized again, and returns their weapons. At which point, he then sends Aelita into Lyoko, and since XANA didn't leave the back door open, she has to get to Sector 5 the old-fashioned way, and she managed to get to the tower just in time before XANA can choke Jeremy, as the Phantom came back and tried to kill him. So yeah, they managed to deactivate the tower, and at this point nothing really has progressed in the episode beyond that, as they essentially learn, as it was just XANA trying to mess with them and try and find out and try and get something out of them. So yeah. Overall, what do I think of the episode? I want to say it's fun. I want to say it's all right, but let me start with what I don't like. I don't like the episode. I feel like the episode. What makes the episode kind of falter is that we don't really get a lot of answers in this episode. Like, everything the Franz Hopper avatar said to us could easily be conjecture. Like, the only thing that could possibly be true is the stuff that he talked about with XANA, since, well, it was XANA, so it would make sense for XANA. So why would he lie about that? He could say XANA was originally a program to countermeasure something, so to be a countermeasure or something, but we don't know what. So we don't. But he went out of control. So XANA probably didn't lie about that. But of course, a lot of the other things are called into question because we do later learn that the cellular degeneration thing was a complete lie. Yumi is completely fine, and odds are Xana only said that to split the group up, which is part of his tactics. But what kind of gets to me is that, but because of that, the consequence is that most of what he said is unreliable. We know that, they state that, the closest we get is that Jeremy says that the real Franz Hopper is somewhere on Lyoko. So we could easily make, I don't know, was that revealed in an earlier episode and I just forgot about it? Or was that just something they learned now? Because I think that's possibly the only revelation we get out of this. Otherwise, everything else he revealed about Lyoko is kind of up in the air. Even stating that Aelita was created to be the guardian of Lyoko, which, spoiler warning, is a load. I'll get to that when we get to that. But yeah, nothing really is. There's no big revelations in the episode. The most we get is The most we do get is kind of the revelation that there are towers in Sector 5, which we never saw before this point. Sector 5, in my opinion, I kind of like that, as Sector 5 is already kind of considered like the other sector in Lyoko, like something outside the parameters of the normal sectors. They have to in order to get to Sector 5, they have to use a special transport. It's got its own little set of rules. Whenever they go there, the map of Lyoko changes to that of Sector 5. So it feels like that it's like its own little thing. But the real, on top, made even more so by the fact that that's the sector that Xana officially calls home. So actually seeing a tower in there, and admittedly it kind of looks a little out of place. Like, the tower itself is not, I wouldn't doubt that that Sector 5 wouldn't have towers, but it's got like the growths on it that the other towers do. It's just floating there. It feels like it's a little out of place, and to be fair. But I guess to be fair, I guess another argument strength for that is that because in Sector 5 Jeremy might not have picked it up. He mentioned that when Xanon had the initial attack that was meant to indoctrinate his Franz Hopper avatar to them was by activating 5 towers at once. It could easily be that one of those towers was the one in Sector 5, or he could have just made that up. Or that could have just been something that happened under Jeremy's radar. We don't know. We're not told. But again, that's something I find a little interesting. But again, nothing is really revealed. But again, aside from the fact that they might have run into Franz Hopper, we don't know that much about that. The closest thing we have to revelation is that, and a little bit about Xana's true origin. Although he does mention that one thing. The Xana Avatar does mention that they once utilized the group were the ones there that turned on the supercomputer. So that's another hint towards what's happening there, which we'll get to in a few weeks. But again, that's just kind of a thing. But let's get to my main complaint about this episode, the one that really pissed me off, namely the group turning on Jeremy. Now, I will give credit. When you learn that one of your friends is dying, and that someone you knew was responsible, albeit unintentionally, you would be pissed. You would be beyond pissed, and you would probably be angry at them. But the thing is, grief comes in stages. And when you spend enough time with someone, you know them. And eventually, the logical part of your brain will win out and let you know it's not their fault. They didn't know. You didn't know. It is what it is, and you know them. This is not something they would have done on purpose, especially if your friend openly takes responsibility for the screw-up and offers to fix it. So, with that being said, when the group is under the impression that Yumi may be possibly dying from using the scanners, the group turns on Jeremy. And they don't let up. Specifically, Ulrich doesn't let up. The group just freaking makes Jeremy out like the bad guy. Hold on a sec. Sorry, dog entered room. But yeah, like I was saying, the group just friggin' turns on Jeremy at this point. And again, while a little bit of shock and anger is understandable, there's only so much you can justify before it stops being grief, and you're just being a dick. And this episode pushes that. As in the beginning, Odd and Ulrich are angry at Jeremy and tell him, pretty much just telling him, this is all your fault, you should have known, great job, blah, blah, blah. Like, these are just insults. Like, they're just being jerks to him. And Yumi, admittedly, it's justified. She thinks she's dying. What would you do in the face of your own death? You want to be alone, because that's what she does. As Jeremy is apologizing to her, she says, I just want to be alone. That's a justifiable reaction. But Ulrich... Hold on. Sorry about that. Anyways, I was saying, Ulrich's a jerk. Like, he is just pounding it in. He's insulting Jeremy. He's just belittling him. He is intentionally getting to him. And everyone acts like it's justified. Like, they're reacting, well, why you should have known this. You should have known this. To which I respond with, maybe. He should have known this. But he clearly didn't. And you think he would intentionally put your lives on the line just if he thought that he knew that there was a danger? No, he wouldn't. In fact, if he had learned about this earlier, he would have tried to fix it. And if all of you had stopped acting like self-entitled little pricks, you might have been able to say, well, how can we fix this? They actively try not. They don't try to think that. They are quick to blame Jeremy, and they keep the blame on him. When the XANA Franz Hopper avatar starts blaming Jeremy for everything that's gone wrong, no one steps up to his defense. Aelita, probably. She wants him to stick around because she knows him. She trusts him, and he's done God knows how much to try and help her become a real person. But they do nothing. They are fine with him just leaving. At one point, it got so bad that Jeremy called his dad and said he wanted to leave and go to a higher education school. But it's just... And that makes it worse. Nobody apologizes. Jeremy, for some reason, is like, oh, it's okay, I get it. Like, no, I don't care. They should be apologizing. Even if Jeremy says, oh, it's all water under the bridge, it's fine. They should be saying, we're sorry. Even if it was true, they should know Jeremy well enough to know that if this was real, that if one of their teammates' lives were on the line, he would move heaven and hell to try to help them. They know him, even if he should have known but didn't. They know Jeremy, and they know he is not that malicious. Even if this is a mistake, if he works to try and fix it, they would not be doing this. And and unfortunately, most of it comes from Ulrich. Odd and Yumi become bystanders at some point. Yumi, it's understandable. She probably is dealing with the fact that she might be dying, which, as I said, was a lie by XANA. Odd kind of just sort of drops it, but Ulrich keeps pounding it in. And I have talked about this before on these vlogs. Ulrich is an asshole. He is just a complete asshole. And it's consistently shown throughout the series. He has, whenever he gets angry, he's quick to have a grudge, quick to find a problem, quick to rub it in, quick to just be a jerk. Even when it involves his friends. When it looks like he and Yumi have had problems, he has actually become apathetic to the concerns. In the episode with that, I forgot the name of the episode. Marabunta. In the Marabunta episode, the only reason he finally helped is because William told him to get his head out of his own ass. Again, that was an example where one of his friends almost friggin' died. Sometimes he has kept his head out of his own ass and he's learned from his mistakes. Sometimes he has gotten improved and gotten better. But keep in mind, the only reason he made up with William is when he learned that Yumi finally said that he didn't trust him. He didn't even go to talk to her and say, do you like William? No, he just assumed that they were a couple now and just assumed the worst. Ulrich is a jerk. And maybe by the end of the series he overcomes this. Maybe. But right now, I'm sorry. Ulrich is an asshole. and he's pretty much secured himself on my I hate you he's pretty much secured himself on my as one of my least favorite characters in this series. Sometimes he can be cool. Sometimes he's the one with a level head. But when it comes to other things, and especially with Yumi, he acts like an impulsive dick. And before you jump and say, they're kids, I know, they are kids, and kids make stupid decisions, but there is, again, a limit to how many stupid decisions a single person can make before you finally say, learn, damn it! And this is unfortunately one of them. It really gets on my nerves in this episode. The only reason the group finally ingratiates back is when they learn that XANA's a liar and that he's been manipulating them. And for them, it's just water on the bridge, like, oh, okay, it was all fine, it was all made up, we forgive you now. When they should have been, like, ugh. I feel like they should be the one asking for forgiveness here. They're the ones that should be saying, we're sorry, Jeremy. We are sorry we're sorry that we got so angry at you. Even if this was true, we know that you would do whatever you could to help Yumi. The only one that stuck by his side was Aelita. Aelita stood to it in his defense. When one point when Ulrich consults Jeremy and says that this is all his fault, they're at lunch and Jeremy storms off. Aelita then looks at Ulrich and is like, you know, if it wasn't for the scanners, I wouldn't be here, right? Right? And then storms off with Jeremy. Aelita's the only one that comes to his defense. The rest of them, they don't give a damn. And why would they keep going into the scanners knowing that they could possibly be the end of them? Because they want to keep fighting at XANA? Well, again, I guess that kind of makes sense, but by that same token, they should still be saying, look, we all accepted the risks too. This is also kind of on our heads too. But no, just all Jeremy's fault. Just immediately hang him, throw him to the wolves. He's done. We're done with him now. Screw them. Screw them. I actually said that. Screw them in this episode. That just pissed me off like you wouldn't believe. And the only reason that they finally jump to go back on his side is when he saves their lives. Well, good for you. It shows that Jeremy's on the up and up. It's good. It's nice that despite everything that's happened in the series up to this point, we know that your loyalty is only bought when your life is in mortal danger. Then you're willing to forgive them. I'm sorry. And again, I know in mortal danger, that's a moment when everything has to come into perspective, but they don't really have that moment now, do they? It's just that, oh, Jeremy, sweet, oh, sweet, yeah. Again, there should have been an apology. They didn't even say, maybe we should have, we need to apologize to him. That legitimately ticked me off and annoyed me in this episode. And it led to me just kind of getting annoyed and furious with the episode as a result. Made even worse by the fact that, again, this supposed revelation that Franz Hopper came back, only to learn that he was in reality just a XANA copy, just an avatar for XANA, is just kind of swept on. Ultimately, comes down to nothing. They didn't talk about them possibly getting more data from XANA hacking into the supercomputer from the terminal. That's it. Nothing. Maybe that Franz Hopper's on Lyoko. I don't remember that being mentioned in previous episodes, but that's all I can think about. That otherwise is is what I think. So, yeah. Otherwise, but yeah, what did I like about the episode? Again, we see that more of XANA developing and learning. We see and again, I guess to give credit where it's due, this still showcases Xana's strength as a villain as he disguises himself as Franz Hopper and tears the group apart from within, ingratiating himself with the group by acting as the grand poobah that knows so much about Lyoko, telling them how they can fix everything, deactivating the towers with a whim, and even upgrading the group's weapons temporarily so that they pretty much one-shot all the monsters. That is smart, and the only reason that XANA failed is because he slipped up and mentioned something that Franz Hopper wouldn't have known about. But otherwise, and on top of that, there is a nice little sense of tension, I suppose, but there's also some weird, dumb moments too. Like when the group is deprived of their weapons, they immediately start going for brawl. They start going for hand-to-hand combat to fight XANA's monsters. We get this kind of silly moment with Odd as he gets into a boxing match with a creeper, which he does win. It feels a little weird and out of place, admittedly. I guess another thing is that we actually saw Manta. Well, actually, never mind. Manta's living in Sector 5. Forget that one. I want to say that we saw Jeremy's dad, but there was barely any time spent with him beyond Jeremy talking to him on the phone twice, and then him coming to pick Jeremy up, only for Jeremy to tell him, "No, it's fine." It's nothing. There's nothing really there in the terms of a subplot. Again, I feel like them meeting what they think is Franz Hopper is a big deal, admittedly, but at the end of the day, we'll see in future episodes if this faux Franz Hopper meeting ever actually kind of leads into anything. Otherwise, it's just, I don't like the episode. It has the makings for a good episode, and there is some good stuff in there. I like that. It is kind of cool seeing them get a bit of an upgrade and getting some help from someone they think is the source. I do like it when Jeremy does find. I do like how when Jeremy does outthink XANA and realizes the trap, and he and Aelita manage to trick him by creating a false Aelita to distract him. It is nice to learn a little bit more about XANA, even if maybe the information is false. And of course, there could be and then there's the stuff, and of course, there's the stuff with, and then ultimately just the realizing the tower. But again, the main problem for me is while this does show more of XANA's cunning, it also just kind of paints the group in a negative light, as they are very quick to jump down Jeremy's throat, accuse him, treat him like the bad guy, and not even offer him an inch of sympathy, despite the fact that they didn't know, and not offering him an inch of sympathy. I can understand trying to play the blame game a little because of grief, but logical minds don't come through in this scenario, and as a result, it just makes the group come across as entitled a-holes that I really don't feel that much sympathy for, and by the end of the episode, I think they really should have said sorry. They might have said it off screen, and based on certain bits of dialogue from Jeremy at the end, they might have said sorry and we just never heard it. But at the same time, I feel like there still should have been there should have still been that remorse and saying, Jeremy, look, no, we treated you unfairly. We need to say this. That's something that should have happened in the episode, but nothing comes of it. It's dumb, and I'm sorry, that honestly ticked me off about the episode and kind of made me go, to it. So, yeah. Structurally, that's fine, but I personally don't. This episode ticked me off. Structurally, it's fine. Ticked me off. It actually ticked me off and led to some stupid character moments. So, yeah, it ticked me off. So that's all I can say. So yeah, I guess that's all I can say. Again, episode structurally is not bad. Some good stuff there. If you liked it, good for you. But I don't. But personally, I don't think I can. Personally, I think this episode's dumb. So yeah, that's about all I can say. I hope you enjoyed this half-hour-long vlog. If you disagree with me on this episode and you you think it's good for you. State why you like it in the comments. But otherwise, yeah, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I'll see you next week. Take care.